There are three versions of you that you might not even know exist. One of them wants to be admired. Another wants to be in control. The third one isn't afraid of anything. And one of these three is the one actually making the decisions when you're angry, when you've been betrayed, when your reputation is on the line. Psychologists call this the Dark Triad of personality. Not a disorder, not a diagnosis. Three traits that exist in every human being, just in different proportions. In some people, they're asleep. In others, they run half their life. Today, you're not just going to listen to this. You're going to take a real psychological test right here in this video. 21 questions, 3 scales, and in 30 minutes, you'll know your exact proportion. How much narcissist, how much Machiavellian, and how much psychopath is in you. Grab a piece of paper or just hold the numbers in your head. Let's begin. In 2002, two psychologists, Delroy Paulhus and Kevin Williams, asked themselves a simple question. Why do the same kind of people, charming, successful, self-assured, keep leaving behind a trail of broken relationships, deceived partners, and fired colleagues? They studied thousands of people and found a pattern. 3 traits that statistically travel together but are completely different in nature. The first, narcissism. Not Instagram vanity, but a deep need to be special, to be the center, to be above everyone else. The second, Machiavellianism. A cold, calculating view of people as a means to an end. The ability to withhold the full truth when it's advantageous. The third, psychopathy. In its everyday, non-clinical form, reduced empathy, impulsivity, and the absence of lasting guilt. On their own, each of these traits is just a personality quirk. Millions of perfectly normal, successful people have them. The problem starts when all 3 switch on at once with no breaks. Before we go further, something important. This test won't diagnose you. It won't tell you whether you're a good person or a bad one. It will show you a mirror, traits that exist in all of us, just to different degrees. And the more honestly you answer, the more accurate your result will be. No one but you will ever see these numbers unless you choose to post them in the comments. Don't answer as the person you want to be. Answer as the person you actually are when nobody's watching. The rules are simple. I'm going to read out statements, 7 for each of the 3 traits, 21 in total. After each statement, you'll have a couple of seconds to rate how true it is for you on a scale from 0 to 4. 0. Not me at all. 1. Probably not. 2. Sometimes, depends on the situation. 3. Probably yes, that sounds like me. 4. That's exactly me. Remember or write down the number after each statement. At the end of each block, we'll add up the 7 numbers, giving you a result from 0 to 28 for that trait. No preparation needed. Just listen and answer honestly. Your first reaction is usually the truest one. Let's start with the trait that's hardest to admit to yourself. Narcissism isn't about loving your own reflection. It's about where your sense of self-worth actually comes from inside you or from how much admiration you get from the outside. 7 statements. Keep score. Statement 1. I genuinely believe I deserve more than most people around me get. Statement 2. I find it hard to listen to other people's problems for long if the conversation doesn't come back to me. Notice, this isn't about selfishness in general. It's about a specific pattern. Attention drifting away from you feels physically uncomfortable. Statement 3. When I'm overlooked in a group, it genuinely ruins my mood, even if I don't show it. Statement 4. I often catch myself thinking I'm smarter or read the room better than most people in it. Psychologists call this grandiosity, not delusions of grandeur, but a quiet, constant background feeling of, I'm the exception to the rules that apply to everyone else. Statement 5. Compliments and recognition are something I lose motivation fairly quickly without. Statement 6. I tend to experience criticism not as information, but as a personal attack, even when I logically know the person is right. This is a key marker. People with low narcissism hear criticism and think, interesting, is there something to that? People with high narcissism hear criticism and think, how dare they? Statement 7, the last one in this block. I like it when people talk about me, even when the attention isn't entirely positive. Add up the 7 numbers you got. Hold on to that total. You'll need it at the end of the video. While you're adding, a quick fact. Moderate narcissism in the 12 to 18 range is statistically linked to higher confidence in interviews, faster early career growth, and stronger first impressions. The problem doesn't come from having the trait, it comes from having too much of it with no self-control. That's when confidence turns into a fragile ego that shatters at the first sign of criticism. Let's move on to the second trait, the most strategic of the 3. Niccolò Machiavelli didn't write a manual for evil. He wrote an observation about how power actually works, without any illusions that people always act from good intentions. Machiavellianism as a personality trait isn't about scheming every single day. It's about your default lens on people and on truth. Do you see them as tools or as values in their own right? 7 new statements. Statement 1. I believe almost everyone has a price or a weak spot if you look closely enough. Statement 2. I'm quite comfortable not sharing the whole truth if it benefits a deal or a relationship. Important distinction. This isn't outright lying, which we'll get to when we talk about psychopathy. This is about selectivity, about withholding as a tool. Statement 3. I easily build relationships with an eye toward what benefit they might bring in the future. Statement 4. I'd rather stay quiet about my real plans than talk about them openly ahead of time. People high in Machiavellianism instinctively understand something we've discussed in previous videos on this channel. Information is power, and information revealed too early is power handed to someone else. Statement 5. I believe morality is more of a flexible tool for getting results than an absolute unchanging law. Statement 6. I'm pretty good at quickly adjusting my behavior and tone to a specific person in order to get the outcome I want. This is called tactical flexibility, and in moderate doses, it's literally what's described as emotional intelligence on a resume. The difference between a social skill and manipulation is often not in the action itself, but in the goal behind it. Statement 7. I tend to analyze other people's real emotions rather than openly showing my own.
Add up the 7 numbers from this block.
Research shows something interesting. High Machiavellianism on its own correlates weakly with real long-term success. People sense calculation even when they can't quite name it, and slowly stop trusting you. The real power of this trait only shows up when it's paired with emotional control, not pure cunning. The last trait is the most underestimated and the most misunderstood. When you hear the word psychopath, you probably picture a character from a crime series. But in personality psychology, we're talking about something completely different, an everyday subclinical form found in perfectly ordinary people. Your coworker, an entrepreneur you know, maybe even yourself, just at a dose that makes you resilient, not dangerous. There are 2 key components here: reduced empathy and impulsivity without lasting guilt. 7 final statements. Statement 1. Other people's tears or intense emotions rarely move me on a deep level. Statement 2. I often act before I've had time to think through the consequences. Statement 3. I get bored fairly quickly if there's no risk, novelty, or movement around me. This is what psychologists call sensation-seeking, and in moderate form, this trait is exactly why some people calmly go into entrepreneurship, extreme sports, or high-risk deals, while others freeze in fear. Statement 4. Guilt rarely stays with me for long, even when I know I was wrong. Statement 5. I can break a promise if it suddenly becomes deeply inconvenient for me. Statement 6. I find it hard to stick to rules for long if they seem pointless to me, even when everyone else follows them. Statement 7, the last one in the test. I rarely think about how my words might hurt someone until it's pointed out to me directly. Add up your last 7 numbers. Here's something important to understand. Low empathy doesn't automatically make you a bad person. It's often exactly what allows a surgeon to operate without trembling, a negotiator to work through a crisis without panicking, or a leader to make unpopular decisions when everyone around them is paralyzed by emotion. The problem only starts when low empathy combines with high impulsivity and a total absence of internal brakes. Now you have 3 numbers. Let's break down what they mean together. The same interpretation applies to each of the 3 scales. 0 to 9, the trait is weakly expressed. It's not your dominant strategy in life. 10 to 17, the trait shows up situationally. It kicks in under stress or when the stakes are high. 18 to 23, the trait is strongly expressed. It's visible to others and regularly drives your behavior. 24 to 28, the trait dominates. It likely defines how the people close to you perceive you. And now, the interesting part. Look at which two scales are highest for you and find your combination. If Narcissism and Machiavellianism are highest and Psychopathy is low, you're looking at an archetype we can call the charismatic strategist. You know how to make an impression and plan moves ahead, but your internal brakes, conscience, attachment, guilt, stay switched on. This is the most common profile among successful public leaders who still manage to keep close relationships. If Machiavellianism and Psychopathy are highest and Narcissism is low, that's the cold-blooded tactician. You don't need to be admired. You need things to work efficiently. You can be ruthless in your decisions, but you do it quietly, without needing applause. If Narcissism and Psychopathy are highest and Machiavellianism is low, the impulsive king. You want to be the center of attention and you're not afraid to take risks for it, but you often lack the patience for a long, quiet strategy. You win fast or you lose fast. If all three scales are above 18, this is the classic profile that academic literature calls malignant narcissism, or the core of the Dark Triad. It's not a life sentence. Plenty of successful, even charming people fall into this range. But it's a signal. Since your internal brakes are weak, it's worth consciously building external ones: your environment, your habits, your self-reflection. And if all three scales are below 10, congratulations. You're statistically one of the safest people around for the people in your life. There's a flip side to that, too. You probably find it harder to say no, to hold your boundaries, and to stop more calculating people from taking advantage of your kindness. None of these three traits is a life sentence, and none of them is an excuse. This isn't about who you are forever. It's a snapshot of your psyche in this moment, a reflection of how you're currently handling stress, competition, and disappointment. What matters isn't the numbers you got. What matters is that you can now actually see them. A person who knows their own shadow controls it. A person who denies it is controlled by it. If your Machiavellianism came out higher than you expected, that doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you see people more clearly than most, and the only real question is what you use that clarity for. If your psychopathy came out high, that quality might one day be exactly what lets you make a decision that more sensitive people around you wouldn't have the nerve to make. And if your narcissism came out high, remember that confidence which doesn't need constant validation isn't narcissism anymore. It's just strength. Write your three numbers in the comments: Narcissism, Machiavellianism, Psychopathy, and whatever combination you got. I'm genuinely curious to see the pattern across this audience. If this test showed you something new about yourself, hit like. It helps the channel grow. Subscribe if you want more real psychological tests, not made-up advice lists. And turn on notifications. Next week, we'll break down how each of these three traits shows up in relationships and how to spot it in a partner before it's too late. See you in the next video. And remember, Knowing your own shadow is more honest than pretending it doesn't exist.